It's a non-Raven Sunday, and here I am anyway. Why not? The 29th of December. Happy New Year to you and yours. Merry Christmas to you and yours. Happy Hanukkah to you and yours. I am in the comfort of my childhood home at my mom's here in upstate New York, and looking forward to getting into some coverage today, which is brought to you by my friends at Primary Residential Mortgage. As always, I'm Bobby Trosset. This is where I bring you Baltimore sports and beyond, and apparently this friggin' MVP trophy is becoming a popularity contest, a most deserving award, or as some of you coin it in the live chat, the MVP award. Maybe, just maybe. And maybe, just maybe, Tony Romo exposed what this has become, and that is perhaps voter fatigue for Lamar Jackson, who, of course, is vying for his third MVP award. There's plenty more on his docket in terms of the priority list. And of course, at the top of that list is that coveted, elusive Lombardi trophy and a Super Bowl title, which he promised the Baltimore Ravens. We're going to get into all that and more, including what Michael Vick, Terry Bradshaw, and Howie Long had to say earlier today. Nate Burleson as well. There's a lot to discuss, but none of this would be possible without my friends at Primary Residential Mortgage. I've been working with them for, close to a year and a half at this point, and they have a message for you this holiday season. Consider turning your tax refund into a new home. Primary Residential Mortgage has a wide variety of loans requiring little to no down payment on your behalf. Your tax refund could potentially cover it all. You could use it to cover closing costs, pay down existing debt, pay for upgrades to your existing home to increase its overall value. And on top of that, I've been telling you about this for months now, and some of you are taking advantage of this. PRMI is going to cover your closing costs up to $750 for applications that are submitted by February 9th of 2025. That is not all that far away, so take advantage if you're interested in doing so. Again, they will cover your closing costs up to $750 for applications that are submitted by February 9th of 2025. I just heard from one of you recently, one of my subscribers that took advantage of this offer. You're already on your way to a new home, which is super exciting. You guys are actively taking advantage of this incentive. And obviously, I want to thank Primary for allowing this incentive to exist and continuing to believe in what I'm building here inside the channel. You can apply through the PRMI Mid-Atlantic website today. Just mention my name throughout your application process to redeem that incentive, to redeem that offer. And you can find more information in the show notes to get started today. There's also a pinned comment in the live chat. Well. Shall we talk about where the current state of this MVP race lies now that the Bills have put the finishing touches on the Jets? And my Lord, was it just a brutal beatdown, 40-14. Josh Allen did not play in the fourth quarter, much like Lamar Jackson in recent weeks, because that's how out in front they were. Josh went 16 of 27, 182 yards, 2 touchdowns, a quarterback rating of 104.2, and he chipped in 5 carries, 17 yards on the ground, and a rushing touchdown. Again, this is the Jets. They're the Jets. This is what they do. For 14 straight years, they've yet to make the postseason. 4-12 are Aaron Rodgers' group. Buffalo improves to 13-3 and is officially the number 2 seed, meaning we may not see Josh Allen at all in the regular season finale against the New England Patriots, which is notable because Lamar will absolutely play as long as they need him throughout that game against the Cleveland Browns, because that is a division-deciding game, and it's simple for the Ravens. They are in. Obviously, they have a wild card spot, but as many of you know, you win on this upcoming weekend. I don't believe they've named a date yet. Is it the 5th? We got to see. I'm sure the NFL will release the time and the actual date coming up this weekend. But you beat the Browns, who likely will have Dorian Thompson-Robinson under center, and you officially take the AFC North crown for a second consecutive year. As for the statistics side of things, again, Josh has Lamar beat in 2 of these. Win-loss record, even though Ravens are trending towards potentially being the 3 seed, so they might be separated by 2 wins right now on the left-hand side of the column, but just 1 in terms of seeding. Passing yards, Lamar has over 3,900. Josh, and this is reflected, by the way, after today's game, just so you know, over 3,700 for Josh. 852 rushing yards for Lamar, 531 for Josh. Lamar's accounted for 43 total touchdowns to Josh's 41, and Lamar's thrown just 4 picks to Josh's 6. Now, of course, Lamar has a number of other really impressive historical statistics, as does Josh. But Lamar has a chance to rewrite a significant record in terms of single season passer rating. And he needs, I think it's 138.6 in this regular season finale against Cleveland to surpass the 2011 edition and version of Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. What a feat that would be. So again, this only shows you 4 specific categories, but the reality is both of these guys are having tremendous seasons, and they are not the only ones, by the way. Saquon Barkley, write it in ink, he has a legitimate chance to pass Eric Dickerson's single season rushing yard record coming up in the regular season finale for Philadelphia. Today, he became just the 9th running back in NFL history to rush for 2,000 yards in a season. Oh, I'm so sorry, New York Giants fans. This has got to be super painful to watch. But Saquon needs just 101 yards, and you better believe, let's see who the Eagles have coming up next week. You better believe that he's going to have a shot, and oh, how fitting. I just checked their schedule. They play the New York Giants in Philly coming up next weekend. And my, oh my, how fitting that he has a chance to break this ridiculous record that so many around the league felt like would never be touched again, held by Eric Dickerson against his former team. So Saquon, clearly deserving of attention, clearly deserving of Offensive Player of the Year consideration, clearly deserving of what you would think would be several MVP votes, but we know it's a 2-team, and I should say a 2-player race when it comes to the quarterback position and its importance on this league. Not only is Saquon having a hell of a season, and especially in recent weeks down the stretch, Joe Burrow and company held on to beat the Denver Broncos. Sean Payton, what were you doing not going for 2 at the end of regulation? I don't get that decision on the road. Infuse your team and your rookie quarterback with confidence and give him a shot to go for it. Don't leave it up to overtime with Joe Burrow, Joe Cool. You know how that's going to go. And that's exactly what happened. It went in Cincinnati's favor, and Joe was electric. 39 of 49, 437 total yards, 4 total touchdowns, and Zach Taylor saying what a lot of other head coaches would be saying if they had a chance to coach the Joe Burrows, the Lamar Jacksons, the Patrick Mahomes, the Josh Allens, so on and so forth. Quote, I don't know that anybody can stand on the field and watch Joe Burrow and say he's not the best player in the world. Look, all these guys are having MVP caliber seasons. They're having incredibly impressive seasons. I'm of the belief, and maybe this is biased in some sense, just because Lamar is someone I watch as an obligation for work week in and week out. To me, his season is historic, while these other players, certainly, I'm sure statistically, in some areas, it is historic. But to me, they're more just elite and incredibly impressive seasons, whereas Lamar's is just a touch higher, given what he's already accomplished, given the strength of schedule, given the murderer's row opponents right out of the gate, given this defense, given Justin Tucker's struggles, and so on and so forth. Ryan Clark had an interesting tweet a short while ago, and then I'll get to Tony Romo's comments because that's what this video is titled, and I'm sure that's why you're here. Ryan Clark tweeting out earlier today, this is the golden age of quarterback play. Mahomes is the greatest in the game. Lamar's the most transformative. Josh, the most physically imposing. And Joe is playing at the highest level right now, all on their way to all-time greatness, led by Patrick. They can't all even be Pro Bowlers. 2 will be 1. 2 will be 1-2 in MVP voting, and that would be Lamar and Josh as of right now. The betting odds would tell you that's actually in Josh's favor, and Lamar would be finishing a close second. It won't be Joe, and I wouldn't be mad if he ended up being first team All-Pro, which never happens. Again, Joe's team likely will not make the postseason, so that takes him out of this equation, even though he and Jamar Chase, make no mistake about it, have had electric individual seasons for the Bengals. Ryan goes on to summarize, still none of those three is more probable to win Super Bowl MVP than the other guy, and it would be his fourth, referring to Patrick Mahomes. What a time to be alive. There's a lot of this that I agree with. And while not taking away from Joe Burrow at all, he's referring to him as someone who's playing at the highest level right now. I would challenge Ryan that Lamar is right there with him. I think a lot of these people, stylistically, I'm not saying Ryan's one of them, but a lot of people look at Joe and they view him as your prototypical, right? Your quarterbacky, to use that ridiculous phrase from last year, quarterback. He is your surgical pocket passer. He's your beautiful deep ball guy. He's your elite processor. Right? And guess what? Lamar has transformed himself into all of those things while being the greatest dual threat of all time. And so, not to mention, he's got every single one of these quarterbacks, aside from Mahomes, this season beat in their head-to-head. They swept the Cincinnati Bengals. They throttled the Bills on Sunday Night Football, and they lost by a toe, some might say, on that opening night, week one performance, Thursday Night Football in Kansas City. I get where Ryan's coming from. Give Lamar more. I get it. He has transformed the game. He has transformed himself, but he is playing as highly skilled and elite as anybody is right now across the league. And that's why I think this MVP race, based on some of the reactions that we're seeing around the league, both from voters and non-voters alike, this could be really, really, really close and competitive. Matter of fact, just a short while ago, I was watching the CBS broadcast right before I came on the show, and former Steelers head coach Bill Cowher mentioned that he feels like this is going to be a co-MVP handed down to Lamar and Josh. Here's the thing. Lamar's got one more big opportunity, and I get it. Cleveland, not exactly a formidable opponent, but that opponent beat the Ravens earlier this year with Jameis Winston under center. And that opponent, no question, wants to try to play spoiler alert to keep the Ravens away, whether it's pride or more than pride, or guys trying to prove themselves for roster jockeying next year, contracts, so on and so forth. They want to try and keep the Ravens away from a second consecutive AFC North title crown. And so that's a big deal. As for the Bills, they can't really improve anything at this point. They are locked into the number 2 seed. They have the Patriots coming up in the regular season finale next weekend, and I'll be curious to see if they even trot Josh Allen out there whatsoever. I know he has a consecutive start streak that's alive, so perhaps he plays a series, perhaps he plays a quarter. But again, nothing to play for in terms of trying to improve their status when it comes to the postseason. So that's where things are. To me, this is in favor of Lamar. He's got one more opportunity, albeit against an opponent that is not in the postseason, much like the New England Patriots, who, again, Buffalo will see in Week 18. But to me, Lamar has to be in the driver's seat for reasons that we've already discussed. Statistically, across the board, aside from the win-loss record, and it's not like there's a huge gap between the two, it's 2 less wins as of right now for Baltimore compared to Buffalo. It's more rushing touchdowns for Josh. Of course it is, because the Ravens went and got Derrick Henry. And by the way, James Cook, I believe, has 15 touchdowns this year. So their running back / pass catcher who can do it all for the Bills is having a Pro Bowl caliber year as well, along with the King in Baltimore. Okay, and when you think about all the statistical categories, when you think about 3 games in 11 days, when you think about Justin Tucker's struggles, when you think about the defense through 10 weeks, where it was, when you think about the strength of schedule right out of the gate, it's hard not to really love what Lamar has done in historic fashion in year 2 with Todd Monken, in year 7 with this organization in the NFL, and he continues to chip, 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 chip. That's exactly what Michael Vick, Howie Long, and Terry Bradshaw had to say, in part, earlier today on CBS, and To no one's surprise, all three of them left no room for doubt across the board when it comes to this year's MVP candidacy.
To lose? I mean, he broke your rushing record all time already.
Yeah, I think it is Lamar Jackson's MVP to lose because, ever since their bye week and since they came back, they look like a totally different team. And, not to say that Lamar had any setbacks, but the way he's just approached the game over the last couple of weeks, he's just been doing some phenomenal things. Like you say, broke my record last week. I thought that was an amazing feat for him. All records are made to be broken. I won't say that it didn't sting a little bit, but he deserved it. He deserved it. He worked hard for it and got to credit the coaches that's been around him, for putting him in that position.
Yep.
You know what? When you look at Lamar, and I agree, I think Lamar should win it. He's just played outstanding. He's one of those guys that when he plays and you're watching him on television and they say they're behind a little bit, they're not going to be. You just know that he is going to bring his team back to victory. Accurate with I never thought he would be this good a passer, to be honest with you. Outstanding passer, great poise, knows when to run. And that rushing record, he can have that. That's all right. Super Bowls is what he needs now, and I think he'll win another MVP and possibly get on to the Super Bowl.
But Howie, Josh Allen's still the betting favorite.
Yeah, it's still the betting favorite, but I think, recency bias, and I think it's kind of Lamar's taking it back over. There's 2 weeks left for Josh in Buffalo. I think if there's anything that gives Josh a good chance, maybe fatigue of giving it to Lamar. Lamar won it unanimous one year. He got every vote but one the other MVP year. Josh has certainly done a lot, and so has Saquon.
I'll tell you what, Howie Long there at the end suggesting that voter fatigue could be a factor that goes against the case for Lamar. And Tony Romo hit on something earlier today in game on the CBS broadcast that I think certainly exposes that thought, right? This voter fatigue concept that we have talked about for weeks, being that Lamar has two under his belt, one unanimous in 2019 and one, of course, coming off last year's performance throughout the 2023 season. By the way, that was courtesy of NFL on Fox. And just in case I have a copyright glitch there because they are tough and I forgot to put a screenshot on that, and I may have to eliminate this if you are watching this afterwards, and I had to eliminate that or edit that out. You heard from Michael Vick, Howie Long, and Terry Bradshaw, all leaving no room for doubt. Lamar is their guy. It's notable that that was actually prior to the Week 17 game that Josh Allen and the Bills played earlier today. And, of course, they crushed the Jets 40-14, and Josh did not play in the fourth quarter. Now, Michael Vick also had a few things to say, being that just last week, I should say earlier this week, you don't even know what day it is at this point when you've played 3 games in 11 days the way the Ravens have. But, of course, they took care of business in Houston on Christmas afternoon into the evening. And while doing so, Lamar took care of business and became the all-time rusher for a quarterback in NFL history, surpassing Michael Vick. And you heard Vick there. He was mentioned it. He quickly addressed it, and he said, quote, "I thought that was an amazing feat for him. All records are made to be broken. I won't say it didn't sting a little bit, but he deserved it." So good stuff there. Classy from Coach Vick, who is going to be the next head coach of Norfolk State, an HBCU program, and he gets his career started as he continues to kind of repair this second act for Michael Vick after, obviously, we all know what took place in Michael Vick's life earlier when he was still a football player, and none of us, particularly those of us, myself included, who are dog lovers through and through, it is hard. It is hard to sometimes think that guys like that get second chances. But you know what? When you make the most of your second chance, I'm a big believer in second chances only when you earned it. And if you followed Michael's career, if you followed his philanthropic efforts since those horrible decisions that he made earlier on in his life, I'm of the belief that he's worthy of that kind of chance. And he's certainly gotten that when it comes to broadcasting and now getting his head coaching college career started, as he will in just a few short months from right now. Thanks to those of you who are dropping super chats in. There's over 900 of you concurrently joining me right now across all platforms. Happy holiday season to you and yours. Looking forward to the upcoming week ahead. It's the regular season finale, and it's pretty likely that the Ravens will host a playoff game wild card weekend in Baltimore. So that's obviously exciting for obvious reasons. Oceans writes me and says, nobody in the media can actually make the argument that Allen is playing better than Lamar is. Says a lot about their BS. Seems like anybody but Lamar. Captain Hard writes, Bills better hope the Bengals don't get in, since he still needs a lot of help, including a regular season finale win. They've needed to win out. They've been winning and stacking games in recent weeks, and they'll have to do that again. It'll be the Pittsburgh Steelers in the regular season finale. Obviously, both teams have plenty to play for. The Steelers are currently in the postseason. Since he is not, they not only need the win, but they need some help from around the league as well. And Captain Hard writes, voter fatigue is real. It's kind of funny seeing people actually being honest and saying it out loud. And that brings me to this. Voter fatigue. Something that I think is a real thing. It's unfortunate that it appears to be a real thing that affects voters' minds. But hey, that's how it goes. Sometimes that's human nature. I'm not saying that I'm a fan of it. I'm not saying that it's right. But when this is decided by humans, sometimes human error, whether it's indirect or direct, can come into play. And I thought Tony Romo may have just exposed that exact concept, to be honest with you, in game earlier today during the Jets-Bills broadcast. It was the A-team for CBS, Tony, Jim Nantz, and Tracy Wolfson. And here is what Tony Romo had to say when Josh Allen, not long after Josh Allen handed off a touchdown to James Cook.
If you're going to win an MVP on one extra touchdown pass or something, I don't think that's
I know
right.
You don't have a vote, but you know how voters are influenced. It always gets down
tied.
to these numbers.
I think they're tied in my brain. I think that Josh Allen might get the edge only because Lamar's had two. If Josh had two, you're going to side with a guy who doesn't have one. That's just human nature, in my opinion.
They've set a franchise.
Okay, so Tony Romo, quote, I think they're tied in my brain. I think that Josh Allen might get the edge only because Lamar's had two. If Josh had two, you're going to side with the guy who doesn't have one. That's just human nature, in my opinion. And that right there is essentially, without coming out and saying it, that is essentially screaming that voter fatigue is absolutely in play. Now, it's notable, Tony Romo does not have a vote in this year's candidacy, in this year's MVP race, but perhaps this is representative of some that do. We'll get to last year's full ballot, full voter list, which actually came out just within the last week or so. And by the way, MVP voters this year has not yet been released. That list for the 2024-2025 MVP voting, that list has not yet been released, which is notable. But Romo is essentially saying not only is it tied in his head, but he thinks it should go to Josh because it's so close. It's so close, and Josh doesn't have one yet. And Lamar's got two. Why not? Well, Emmanuel Acho, who I know has been inconsistent at times with his Lamar Jackson coverage, I thought made some interesting points. And he quote tweeted me earlier, just within the last hour, and had this to say. One, saying the MVP race is, quote, tied is a cop-out. You can't mark tied on the MVP ballot. Anyone saying this is pandering. Interesting, and I totally agree with that. The way co-MVPs have been handed out in the past, or a co-MVP has been handed out in the past, is simply due to the way the votes came in. Not the votes actually referring to that it should be a tie, right? There's a difference. Emmanuel's second point, and by the way, Acho will have a vote in this year's contest. Two, voters cannot hold Lamar's previous wins against him. It should not matter at all that Lamar has won previously. And again, that has to do with his head-to-head matchups with Joe Burrow and the Bengals, swept 2-0. That has to do with his matchup on Sunday Night Football in September against Josh Allen and these Bills. Yes, I get it. It was pre-Amari Cooper acquisition, but it was an all-out beatdown in Baltimore in front of a primetime audience. I think these are great, astute points from Emmanuel Acho, who had to, quote, check himself on this entire discussion within the last week or so, and he's been very transparent and forthright about how he's had to do exactly that. Dan Orlovsky, who is a voter, I believe he's a voter, I believe he was last year, declared this infamously declared this race as over through 15 weeks. Not so fast. Clearly, that was far too premature, and Acho said exactly that. And so here's a guy who, Chris Collinsworth, here's a guy in Emmanuel Acho that has often drawn the ire of parts of this fan base for his Lamar Jackson coverage. But I think these 2 points that he makes right here are not only refreshing and accurate, but it actually comforts me in terms of the objectivity that hopefully will be used voter list wide when it comes to deciding this race over the next week or so. I really think that quite a few folks believe that this race, one, is not over, and two, despite what the betting odds currently tell you, among many sports books, Lamar is in the lead of Josh. I'll be curious to see how things shift going into Monday, given Josh's performance today. Perhaps there is some recency bias involved in there as well because they didn't play on the same day. Lamar had a standalone opportunity, as we all know, on Christmas Day and took advantage of it. And Josh Allen had his chance today, albeit against a New York Jets team that's going nowhere fast. 40-14 was the final. A very different foe than the Houston Texans. Did the Texans look all that different? No, it was 31-2. It was actually probably an uglier game, if that's possible, than today's Bills-Jets game in Western New York. But all I know is that Houston has a spot in the AFC playoff picture and will have an opportunity to potentially host a home playoff game in the postseason. That, to me, is notable. This is notable from Emmanuel Acho, and I thought this was notable from Nate Burleson, courtesy of CBS earlier.
Lamar Jackson right now. And let me be very clear. I have been waffling back and forth. I feel like we are in a position where, as fans, this is what we want. We want it to come down to the last couple of weeks of the season. But Lamar Jackson, this season, he has effortlessly dominated defenses. He has made it look so easy. There is a fluidity in his game that I have not seen from him and any other quarterback in the NFL. I just feel like when it comes to what he's doing statistically, the head-to-head matchup and where we are in the season, him finishing strong, you cannot take this away from Lamar. And I do feel like there is some Lamar Jackson MVP fatigue. He's got it twice. Yeah. Does he need another one? Well, if he deserves it, then yeah, I believe he should get it.
Listen, Tony Romo all but exposed straight up that voter fatigue, and maybe some of us already knew that that was a thing, but the way in which, again, his quote just sticks with you on live television, no less. Listen to this.
If you're going to win an MVP on one extra touchdown pass or something, I don't think that's
I know
right.
You don't have a vote, but you know voters are influenced. It always gets down to these numbers.
I think they're tied in my brain. I think that Josh Allen might get the edge only because Lamar's had two. If Josh had two, you're going to side with a guy who doesn't have one. That's just human nature, in my opinion.
They've set a franchise.
Well, do better. Human nature, really? Come on, do better. The Broskis 420 says voter fatigue doesn't make sense considering Rodgers has 4 MVPs, meaning Aaron, and multiple quarterbacks have won back-to-back MVPs, which includes Joe Montana, Aaron Rodgers, Peyton Manning, and Brett Favre. So why is it a problem if Lamar wins? It's a good point, the Broskis, and honestly, it makes you wonder because of this core 4, right, of quarterbacks in this league right now that led Ryan Clark to tweeting something along the lines of that we're in this golden age when it comes to quarterback play. Mahomes, Lamar, Josh, and Joe. You know, Joe's been to the Super Bowl. Patrick has all the Super Bowls. Lamar has the regular season accolades. And where does that leave Josh? It almost makes you feel like there's this agenda for Josh because he is, and I don't think anybody really questions, right, that Josh is in that core 4. Now, obviously, all 3, Josh, Joe, and Lamar, are all chasing Patrick, who is on a Tom Brady, if not more, track so far through his early career. And he's been around for several years now. It's not really early anymore. He's in the prime of his career. And so with all that in mind, it's like, well, does Josh need more accolades? It's almost like there's this agenda to keep him up there with the other three, if that makes sense. It doesn't make any sense to me. I think Josh is sensational. I think all four of those quarterbacks are sensational. And I think every single one of them, by the way, Patrick's already got his, multiple, obviously. I think every single one of those guys, before their careers are over, will win a Super Bowl. The AFC is stacked and stacked for years to come. And it's a great problem to have. But what's not a great problem to have is when you have one of those four quarterbacks who's having a historic year and just so happens to be the reigning MVP. That shouldn't take away from his candidacy. And I think that's what the Broskis is getting at right here. Now, when it comes to MVP voting, Sarah and I covered this on Friday, but just in case you are already in holiday mode, I want you to see the list that was leaked from last year's voters. Okay, these were last year's 2023, 2024 NFL MVP voters. Emmanuel Acho, of course he is again this year. Greg Auman from Fox Sports. Sarah and I have had him on the show before. Howard Balzer, Jarrett Bell, Dave Burkett, Tom Brady, of course. I'm sure he'll be back there again. Teddy Bruschi, Vic Carucci, Mark Craig, and I won't name everybody, but you're seeing, the Tony Dungy's of the world, the Boomer Esiasons, Mike Florio, who felt like just earlier this week he was on the Lamar train. We'll see if that changes coming off this one. Rich Gannon. Who else is on here? Mina Kimes, Peter King. I don't know if Peter's still going to be on there since he retired. Dan Orlovsky, he's definitely on there again. Diana Rossini of The Athletic. Pat Kerwin, love his show on Sirius XM. Laura Oakman, I believe she's a sideline reporter for Fox. Let's see. I think I have another slide of this as well. Mike Sando, great writer for The Athletic. Aaron Schatz, notably, he is the creator of DVOA, as a lot of you know, and he was the lone voter, by the way, that went away from Lamar Jackson a year ago, keeping him from a second unanimous MVP season. Mike Tirico is on this list from NBC. Chris Sims, I wouldn't be surprised if both of those guys make this list yet again. But that is, again, last year's list that was leaked on X. And you wonder how many similar names will be on here for the 2024-2025. Despite Tony Romo saying this earlier today on the CBS broadcast.
If you're going to win an MVP on one extra touchdown pass or something, I don't think that's
I know
right.
You don't have a vote, but how voters are influenced. It always gets down to these numbers.
I think they're tied in my brain. I think that Josh Allen might get the edge only because Lamar's had two. If Josh had two, you're going to side with a guy who doesn't have one. That's just human nature, in my opinion.
They've set a franchise.
Despite him saying that on CBS, he does not have a vote, just so you know. Tony Romo does not have a vote. If Kyle Van Noy had a vote, I think we know where it would be going.
I mean, he's playing unreal right now. I got nothing but love for LJ. It's so fun to play with a player like him. I'll always say he's one-on-one. It's crazier in person, too. I don't think the TV and camera and all that does justice to how elite he is with the ball in his hand. And just him being the type of person he is too makes it that much better. He's such a good dude, such a smart dude too. And just he might make me go buy some grills at this rate. I know I tell people I'm from Broward because I have so many Florida teammates over my career, but he's about to make me go get some grills too, the way he's playing. I mean, it's electric, and he makes everybody else play better around him. And the way he's locked in right now, and before the game, he kept. This game happened to be the locker next to him. He just kept saying, "It's up, it's up, it's up, KB, it's up." And I was like, "Yeah." After the game, I was like, "Yeah, boy, it's up."
We were way up there. That touchdown right there with the Daniil Hunter in his face, let alone this one where he said he's jogging 21.25 miles an hour, the fastest.
Yeah, he always says that, and I believe that. He always says that. I mean, he's looked faster in practice than he has in the game, and I think it's because he likes talking trash to the players he knows a little bit better.
KVN on the Pat McAfee show earlier this week with some big love, of course, as he always gives to Lamar Jackson. So there you have it. I really liked Emmanuel Acho's comments in reference to Tony Romo's comments. Right? Quote, one, saying the MVP race is, quote, tied is a cop-out. You can't mark tied on the MVP ballot. Anyone saying this is pandering. Two, voters cannot hold Lamar's previous wins against him. It should not matter at all that Lamar has won previously. Again, Acho is one of the MVP voters, and I'm getting the sense, maybe, just maybe, this is heading towards not only a potential co-MVP, but heading towards it being decided in the regular season finale. And guess what? As I mentioned earlier on, Josh Allen probably not going to play. If he does, it won't be a ton in that regular season finale, Week 18 against the New England Patriots. Whereas for the Ravens, they have everything to play for, given that AFC North is very much up for grabs. More super chats have come in. Voldegard says, Bobby, I know this isn't right, but there's no way they let Lamar get 3 MVPs before Patrick when they're both tied with 2. And Captain Hard writes, bingo, they want to give Josh some type of accolades to keep up. And look, this is not ever a campaign to knock Josh Allen. I think he is just a unicorn out on the football field. His mobility, his arm, his vision, the way that he is incredibly surgical in the pocket, what he's done for that franchise, his personality, everything. There's so much to like about Josh Allen. But again, I think it's the difference between an elite of elite season in Josh's case and a historic one in Lamar's. And there is, to me, a distinct difference between those two. It really feels like more and more that this is heading towards a Week 18 decision. And hey, if that's the case, I like where Lamar stands. Going up against Cleveland, trying to split that season series, plenty to play for. You win, and not only do you lock up a second consecutive AFC North crown, but you have a home playoff game, a home wild card game on wild card weekend, and maybe, just maybe, a rematch of the Harbaugh Bowl for the second consecutive time this season is what that would become. So anyway, that's that. I appreciate you guys for being with me tonight. Over 1,000 of you concurrently watching. Hope you're having an awesome holiday season. Please like the video on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. You can donate to the channel through the YouTube Super Chat feature. Thanks to those of you who submitted comments. You can always donate as well through the attached ways on screen, Venmo, Cash App, again, the YouTube Super Chat feature. And if you haven't already done so, I would love for you guys to consider joining the Bobby Baltimore Discord server. It's a 24/7 hub for conversations surrounding Baltimore sports, and it has been alive and well so far this weekend. And I'll just give you a quick little screen share of what's going on in here. We talk football and mostly Ravens in the football server part. We talk Orioles and other baseball-related items, obviously, in the baseball chat. General, it's a little bit of everything, including hockey these days, and Ovi getting himself back and healthy. You get a welcome notification. Let's see how many members we're up to. Over 630 members. So, again, this is free. It's a 24/7 hub for conversations surrounding Baltimore sports, and a great way to meet maybe some like-minded people that enjoy Baltimore sports, that enjoy Baltimore sports community, and another way of kind of interacting with me as well in a more informal way. So you can do that. Please like the video. Again, on your way out, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and hit that notification bell so that you can be notified of when we're dropping our daily live content here inside the channel. Just so you know, programming-wise, Sarah's birthday is tomorrow. We will be live at noon Eastern, as always, and I will go live after we finish that up in probably the late afternoon. I believe John Harbaugh's expected to speak tomorrow as well at 2:30, so hopefully we'll have some updates on player health and where things stand going into the regular season finale. But again, Sarah and I will be live tomorrow at noon. Go check out the new Best of Bobby Baltimore clips section that I have. It's where I take the best 15 to 20 minutes of hour-long streams. I know I'm going a little bit shorter than usual today. It's Sunday, and I got family here, so just wanted to kind of pop up there and enjoy that. But if you haven't already done so, would love for you to check out that news section. And again, thank you for popping by. Enjoy the 4 o'clock window. Enjoy Sunday Night Football, and I will catch up with you tomorrow, if not before. Thanks, guys, and a special thank you to Primary Residential Mortgage for their continued support of the channel. Go check them out. I would love for you to click on the link that's included as a pinned comment in the live chat. Even if you're not interested in getting involved in the home buying process, click on that link. It supports me greatly, and it supports them as well if you're interested. So go check that out. I appreciate you guys for being here, and I'll catch up with you soon. Later.